I'm joined here today by Brian Wood, otherwise known as Woody, military cross, veteran, hero, author, been on TV, and dare I say, you've actually got the t-shirt as well. So thanks for joining us today, Woody.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Steve.
Let's go back where it all started then. So tell me a little bit about where you grew up. What was it like being a child from a military background? Because your family's got 300 years worth of history.
And it continues with my son, who's in week 20 of training to become a paratroop in the parachute regiment. But he's got a long way, and he needs to stay focused and hungry and have that desire to continue. But like you said, I'm from a heavy military family, but I was destined to be a football player. Like so many, clearly didn't make it. But I was on Chelsea's books when I was younger, and my dad sacrificed so much, and my mum. We were in a military family. My dad was serving. We travelled all over the UK, Europe. So it's quite difficult, moving schools at a young age, trying to focus and settle back into other environments. It's quite testing, but I think as kids, you're quite resilient, and you just kind of do what you need to do and fit in. And being a sports person, I think, helped as well, because I was half decent. So I was the sort of popular kids were the sporty kids when I was growing up. And yeah, just grew up in this brilliant military family. My dad displaying some family values from a young age. Seeing him in his uniform was inspiring. And like I said, seeing my dad go away on operations in Northern Ireland and then come back, and I remember that vividly, right? My mum worked very hard. She had 3 jobs at one time. My brother then followed, and I left Chelsea, went to Reading Football Club. Didn't get offered a professional contract, so I was like, right, I've got to go and do what my brother and my dad are doing, and that's serving this great nation. So off I went at 16 and 9 months at the Liphook train station with my sausage bag on my shoulder, and then off on this remarkable journey, and I instantly had to grow up.
So were you a good child at school? Were you a rogue?
I would say a lovable rogue.
Lovable rogue.
I got into some mischief, right? Like all sort of kids do, really. It's a learning process, but I learned the hard way, and that was with magic mushrooms. So a few friends of ours heard on the grapevine that picking these mushrooms from this field, which we all knew where the field was, you go on this incredible hallucination trip where it is just remarkable. Anyway, I was sold a dream, and I was like, I need a bit of that in my life. So anyway, off we went to this field, and we started picking all sorts of mushrooms, and I'm thinking, I'm sure these aren't even the same, but just pick every mushroom you see, not knowing, and half of them were death caps. That's what they were called. I found that out the hard way after.
How old were you then?
I think I was about 14.
Right.
So we picked all these mushrooms. We boiled the mushrooms. We made cups of tea, and I was just slurping cups of tea after cups of tea. Zero, nothing happened. I thought, what's this mushrooms all about? They ain't no good to me. Don't even do anything. And I was walking to my friend's house, and then bang! Cool, I didn't feel very well. And I started to see things like shoot past me, and I felt like I was running like Usain Bolt, high speed, flat out. Had to grab hold of the lamppost. I was spun around the lamppost. This was all like hallucination, which I thought I was doing. And then I felt ill, and I was like, bloody hell, this is going to be a nightmare. And I got to my best mate's house, and I was meant to be staying there the night. I said to Sue, I need to go home, I'm not very well. She's like, okay, no worries, I'll take you home. I said, Russ, he was on another complete trip to me. He was off his nut, like proper, like going berserk in the house. I thought, I need to get away from this, I'm ill. So I went home, and this was maybe 9:30, 10 o'clock. So Dad was still awake watching Mad Max, the film.
Right.
And I remember he said, oh yeah, come in. So he's making a fuss of me because he thought I was ill. Sat down, and then I started listening to the TV, and it was like, like, I couldn't understand the language. I thought, what's he watching there? So I said, Dad, what are you up to watching that like language? And what's that language? He said, mate, it's Mad Max. What are you on about? And I was thinking, and I was obviously still like on this trip thing, and I was like, oh my man. So I was like, oh, I need to go to bed. This is dangerous. So I said, I'm going to bed, Dad. And as I laid in bed, as I was breathing in, the walls were like and I was like, this is crazy, I need to get, and then all I heard, right, was my dad shouting downstairs, and we had this, the phone on the wall. At them days, it was just like attached to the wall, and I heard my dad slam the phone that hard it broke off the wall. So I knew something kind of has happened. I could hear him coming up the stairs, but I was thinking, oh, please be a trip. And my dad nearly kicked the door down, hard entry, and was like, tell me now what is going on, because Russell's going berserk. He's diving down the stairs head first. They know this ain't right. Something serious is going on. And I was like, oh, what? I took magic mushrooms, Dad. And I could see his veins coming out of his neck as if he was going to kill me. Anyway, my mum, Russell, and his parents picked me up. My mum come in the back of the car with me. My dad couldn't face coming with me to the hospital. And we actually went to the Aldershot military hospital years ago. Yeah. And we sat there, and the doctor came out and said, right, the only way to flush out your system is to drink charcoal. And honestly, it was charcoal. Couldn't believe it. It was in them white little cups, polystyrene cups, whatever they are. And they poured this black charcoal mixed with water, and you could hear it go as it was filling up with this cup, and then that was it. I had to hold my nose and just drink, but I got it down me. But my best mate was struggling, and he was just being sick on the floor, but you had to keep it down. So we had to stay in hospital until he could keep at least a litre in his system. But like I said, look, we're all entitled to make some mistakes, and as long as you learn and grow by that. And I was young and naive, but it taught me a lesson, for sure.
But this wasn't the only mistake that you made. So let's talk about the jeans.
Oh, bloody hell. Yeah, I went into this shop. There was a pair of jeans I really liked, and I thought, I can't afford them really, but I'm going to steal them. It's such a poor decision. And I do regret that, actually, because I'll share the conversation I had with my parents after. But anyway, I thought, you know what, I can get away with it, so I'm going to do it. Went into the shop, identified the jeans that I liked, took them into the changing rooms, took my jeans I had on, which were quite baggy, off, put the jeans that I was going to steal on, and the jeans that I had, my baggy ones, over the top, and then put my trainers on, top back on, and then started to walk out the store. And I got like 2 yards out the store, the buzzer never went off, and then this heavy hand went on my shoulder, and the security said, I'm taking you've been shoplifting. And I instantly peed myself, instantly pissed myself. I couldn't control it. I was that scared, and I was only young, again I was like 13 at this point. Instantly weed myself, stood there, and I was like, please do not call my mum and dad. And they called my mum and dad. Clearly they come and picked me up, had the police in, done the interview, give me a warning. And my dad was just gutted. He was really disappointed, because he said, we would have bought you the jeans, we would have bought you them, why are you stealing? Come on, you know better than that. And I just thought it was like the buzz for it. I wanted to maybe show off a little bit in front of my friends. Totally the wrong decision to make. But again, I didn't do that sort of thing again, because I got caught, and I had to suffer the consequences. And if I was brave enough to do the action, I've got to be brave enough to accept what was coming my way, and that was to go in for an interview and learn about shoplifting and how wrong it is. And I kind of grew up quite sharpish from that. But like I said, it was another life lesson for me.
So your dad then, your dad's Scottish?
Yeah.
Glasgow?
Yeah. Dad grew up in Springburn, in a huge family, 10 brothers, 3 sisters, and had nothing really. Had to fight to survive, if I'm honest. And so it was really humble beginnings for us, and that's why I was so passionate about example setting and values and understanding the right thing. Integrity was huge with him, and I learnt that from a young age, and understood kind of what values meant from a young age. We're probably a lot more advanced than others, because the way my dad was. He tried to give us the best life that we could as kids growing up. But no, I had a good upbringing, and like I said, my dad you know, served. Most of his brothers served. And my great granddad's, you know, served with, you know, with absolute courage and distinction, and, you know, was on the beaches of Dunkirk, and his selfless commitment, sacrificing himself to get everyone else on the boats. And he passed sadly with exposure, pneumonia, for being in the water too long. So I take that heritage as real pride. It's incredible to listen to the stories and to understand what sacrifices that my family have given to this great nation, and long may it continue for us.
Yeah, and that's now passed on to your son.
And that's now passed on to Bailey. You know, he's away doing his thing, and it's incredible, and I am really proud of him because he's on a mission. He wanted to do his own journey, didn't join my regiment. He's wanted to create his own path, his own walk, and absolutely it should be.
Yeah.
You know, don't live off anything that I've created. He wants to create his own map, his own journey. He's attacking each day, so it's a thing of beauty.
Brilliant. So we're now at the point where you're a bit older and you're joining the military. Tell me about who you joined, where you chose that regiment, and where you then ended up before you went to it.
Yeah. So like I said to you before, you know, I was destined to play football. Got told I wasn't good enough, and then I went to Aldershot Careers Office on my own, and didn't really understand the responsibilities of the regiments or what they kind of meant. I knew a bit from what my dad was doing, but not enough to understand. And the recruiting sergeant who I seen was from the Princess of Wales Royal Regiment, and I said, look, can I play sport? He sold me the absolute dream and said, you will travel the world playing football. And he didn't lie, I did. I was very fortunate to do that, and just sold me the dreams. I was like, I want to join my local regiment because all my family are serving in the Scottish regiments. My brother was in the Royal Scots at the time. My dad was Royal Highland Fusiliers before he transferred over to the Royal Electrical Mechanical Engineers, and I just thought I'm going to join my local regiment. You know, as a frontline soldier, went and did my barb test, didn't score well, which I didn't need to because I was going in the infantry anyway. Got given my date to do my pre-course, did it at Purbright, and that was it. I was off to phase 1, Basenborn.
What year was this?
97.
97.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just kind of, like I said, grew up sharpish, did what I was told, got my head down, got through training, then went to phase 2, did my sort of trade training, which was understanding what it is to become an infantry soldier, frontline soldier. I did that and then went to my regiment. They were in Canterbury, 5 Airborne at the time. They were sort of in and out of Northern Ireland, and it was kind of finishing off really Northern Ireland at that point. So I missed Northern Ireland, and then my first operational tour was Kosovo in 2000 as a private soldier. Understood what it took to go on operations. You know, the pre-deployment was tough. It was, you know, so much to take in. The level of professionalism shown by, you know, my commanders, the investment that they had in us was great. You know, I was understanding so much more at this point because we were going operational. It opened up my eyes for sure as a young lad going into this country that had been broken for so long, and there were still areas of like shallow graves. There was still areas of the Serbian community in Podjeva where I was, and we had to protect them. That was one of our roles and responsibilities, and it really did set the conditions and the foundations for what I was then going to go into. And it was another tour of Kosovo. The dynamics had completely changed. It was restructuring, rebuilding, a lot of hearts and minds, and it was definitely a good thing to see the country kind of stabilised, getting back on its feet and doing what they should be doing, which was really nice to see, and seeing the kids flourish as well, which was, it's important because they're the ones which get affected by war. War is brutal.
Did you think when you joined up as a 17-year-old that you were going to make it as a career? Obviously you're from a military background. Did you think to yourself, I just want to do 5 years and come out, I just want to do 6 years and come out? What was your thought process to post-military, or did you think I'm going to be a lifer?
I think so. I didn't have any timeline.
Right.
I went in and just tried to invest and take it all in, and just try and be I know it's a bit of a cliche, but be the best version of myself and really be motivated and driven. And like I said, my football really took off in the army. I played for the army, I played for the combine services. I went to Brazil for 3 weeks, all paid for, to play football, which was an incredible experience. South Africa, I went to play football. And then the Twin Towers were hit, and clearly the dynamics shifted completely for the British Army as a whole.
Essentially, this whole world changed really dramatically in 9/11, 2001. What was the feeling within the military at that particular time?
I was actually in Aldershot.
Right.
Just finished football training for the army. We was in the shower, someone come in and said the Twin Towers had been hit, and I was like, I didn't even know what Twin Towers were. I was so naive. I was like, what even is a Twin Towers? And then someone said that was the World Trade Center and this is what it is. So we got changed, went over to the lobby and just kind of watched it unfold in disbelief, if I'm honest. Could not believe what I was seeing, like everyone else around the world. And then I just thought, this is it. There's going to be a reaction. We were already committed though to Iraq because we were armoured at this point. Right. And we were warrior fighting vehicles. So we were already, like I said, marked for Iraq in 2004. Iraq was super violent at that period of time. But yeah, to answer your question, I knew there was going to be a reaction, and clearly there was.
Now, it was, from us as a civvy point, we also thought that something was going to happen, and there was rumours, is it Iraq, is it Afghanistan? So it was a very strange feeling for us, I think, as civvies at the time, to realise that there were two fronts essentially going on from that. So tell us all about that, up to the Danny Boy situation. Let's hear that story from you.
Yeah, I think as any soldier will tell you, you want to be tested on an operational environment to see if you've got the calibre to do what you're trained to do, and to lead in extreme situations, and to be tested in the extreme, to make some big decisions in, extreme circumstances. And yeah, you want to go away in operations for sure. And I was no different. I wanted to go away in operations, and I wanted to test myself in them categories as well. And I was going to do that in 2004 because, like I said, we were earmarked, then we were committed. And then in 2004, after all of our pre-deployment training, we went. And it was actually geared up for a peacekeeping tour because the atmospherics had changed so much. There was a breakdown in peace talks in Alamara. That's the area of operations that we were going to go into, which is north of Baja and just south of Baghdad. But the feed and the intelligence that was coming down, it had changed drastically, and we weren't going to be going out and conducting peacekeeping. It was the other end of the spectrum. It was full violence, and we went out in 2004 April, and I never experienced anything like it, if I'm honest. Even just the first day, we just hit the ground running. It was a fighting handover takeover we did with the light infantry who we took over. Didn't have that kind of bedding in period that you normally have. They've been there over 6 months, so they just want to get home, and you could see in their eyes that they were exhausted. The last couple of months had been tough for them, and they knew that we were in for a tough time. And it was just a massive eye-opener for me. I understood the realities of war after a few days. We had the first huge contact situation on the way into Alamara. The CO's Rover group was hit, Kev Phillips was shot. Then a few days after that, we were conducting an operation. Diff, another senior commander, was shot, and we were taking casualties after casualties, and it was extreme warfare. And it was hard operating in urban environments because we're in their town. They're on the rooftops, they're in the windows, they're in the alleyways. We're fighting a fight where it was tough. For me personally, it was the hardest environment Iraq to fight in, just because of the city and confusion. It was so hard, and we were integrated with the Challenger 2 battle tanks as well, so we would be going into the city like heavy armour. It didn't put the militia off. They give us a real hard time, but we reacted to a lot of the situations. And I had a tough May. The 1st of May, we were doing a resupply of Simic House, which was an outstation in the heart of Alamara, and it was under siege from day one. They were punished. Our Y Company were absolutely under the pressure running low on ammunition, food, casualties. Just we had to constantly be resupplying these guys, and the militia knew what we were up to. We were doing a move to give them radio batteries, water, food, ammunition, like any sort of other resupply, and we were hit by 2 84 Soviet Union missiles. They improvised to set the percussion off as well. How they fired it was like old school, but they took us out, come straight through our armour, pierced our armour, chaos, confusion inside of this vehicle. For me, it was like I was overwhelmed with all sorts of emotions. Fear clearly is huge, and it can absolutely take control of you if you can't suppress it. And I understood that even at a young age, at 23, I understood. And as a lance corporal at this time, so I was a leader and a commander, and I had other lads looking at me to make some decisions. And when you're in them situations and you don't really know what to do, you just need to take a few breaths and then figure out and start to triage and prioritise, casualties in the back, which we had. My platoon commander was unresponsive on the turret floor. My gunner Samuels was burning because there was a fire on the left-hand side of our vehicle because it come through. Cruz, the lad next to me, had a shrapnel indented in his nose, the size of a credit card. And then I had wet feet. I looked down, and it wasn't blood, it was diesel, because the diesel tank had been hit. So I've got diesel filling up in the back, a fire, casualties, smoke in the back. I could hear what was going outside with the ambush. It was chaotic, and I was like, I need to do something about this. And I was choking. We were all like coughing badly because of the smoke, and Irvin was bleeding quite bad in his inside of his leg, and wanted to get out and fight. And I was like, can you hear it out there? Sit tight, just wait. And then we were coughing. I was like, I had a mad sort of moment where I was like, Backdraft, because I watched it and it was Kirk Russell, this film about firefighters. I saw him wet a cloth and use it as a filter. The water would filter the smoke. I didn't even know if it worked or not, but I just thought, do you know what, I need to do it. So I did it. I just put loads of water on these cloths that we had, these rags, just got it around our faces, and it worked. Honestly, it was because I wasn't in control of the situation. I was kind of more scared then than what was about to happen on the 14th of May, right, which was the Battle of Danny Boy. But before I went into that, I was back in Baja as a casualty. I just spent 5 days back in Baja before the doctor released me to go back up north to Alamara again. I had to pass an eye test, and I just had to bluff it in the end because I couldn't really see, but I wasn't damaged enough I knew within myself I could go. It just wasn't, my eyes weren't perfect, but I felt a responsibility. I need to do all I can to get back up with my men, because I knew what they were going through. And I knew that we needed the manpower. I was a commander, so they were a commander down, and I just needed to get myself back in the fight, because as a brotherhood, the camaraderie, it's like a bond like no other, and especially on operations, you would sacrifice your life for your brother or sister next to you who you're fighting with. 100%. I don't just say that lightly. It's happened. People have, sacrificed everything for their fellow soldiers, and it's just the way it is. It's a unique bond. And flew back on the 12th, I think it was, and on the 14th we just got hit by another ambush when we were actually on our way down to extract 2 casualties that had been also in another ambush. The Argyll and Southern Highlanders were in a full-on ambush, 2 casualties, and as warriors we were tasked to go down there and extract them, and we didn't even get to extract them because we were smashed ourselves by a dug-in, heavy, infiltrated militia who were in trenches.
So tell me about the Battle of Danny Boy. Got the Military Cross awarded for you. Tell me why that was awarded and what that was like at the actual checkpoint itself.
It's a very good question, because at 23 I didn't really understand what awards and honours were, if I'm brutally honest. And there's actions that are witnessed by your chain of command, and from your subsequent bravery, courage, true grit, determination, you're then written up for an award. And my name was read out in Germany when we were all in the theatre as being awarded the Military Cross, and I was like really, really shocked. And it's a mixture of emotions because there was a few of the guys on the battlefield that day who didn't get anything and deserved everything, so it's like it's a mixture of emotions for sure. Yeah. But I was proud, for sure. My parents were overjoyed, and I got to take my mum and dad and my wife to Buckingham Palace, which was, other than my kids being born and my wedding day, was the best experiences I've ever had, and something I'll treasure for sure forever.
So the battle itself then, because you talk about this, it was trench warfare, so how long did it last, this whole engagement?
It lasted for like 3.5 to 4 hours from start to finish. It was odd because where we were ambushed, we weren't in the city, we were out of the city, we were in like farmers' fields, a few irrigation ditches. Yeah, very random. When I looked at the map, I was like, we're like nowhere near the city, what's going on here? We're closer to a checkpoint, which was called Checkpoint Danny Boy. And it was just very violent, and you're probably in about 70-degree heat because you're in the back of an armoured vehicle. But you just have to deal with that. At this point, we were probably acclimatised anyway, and there was a decision made by my vehicle commander, Stick, and it was to leave the vehicle and counter this ambush. I asked him again because it's not a command that you get told to do very often. You train for it clearly as a frontline soldier to conduct a section attack, but to actually do it for real, it's like, say again. And he just said, look, we need boots on the ground. We have to, we're not having any effect from the armoured fighting vehicle, the Warrior, so yeah, stand by and prepare to dismount. And that was it. I was just fully engaged, and clearly the adrenaline is like an outer body experience. My heart is smashing against my body armour plate. We only had them square little plates at that point, front and back. They actually use them for the Rangers now, but that was our body armour at the time. I knew I had to be a level-headed leader, just kind of reassured the guys who were getting out with me, sort of give them as much information as I knew, how far it is, the holding position. I delivered it to the guys in the back, and then I just said, like you see in the film, are you ready for this? Are you ready for this? Because once that door opened, I didn't have a clue really what was going to happen. But what I was going to do is lead by example. I was always going to go first, for sure. And when the door opened, it was like a bright light from the desert sun, come straight in, squinting, overwhelmed with adrenaline, and then hard and fast to this holding position. There was only 3 of us at this time. Managed to get to the holding position, and was there for maybe 5-10 minutes, and then we were joined by 2 other soldiers who dismounted from another vehicle. A commander more senior than me was on the ground now, which was good and reassuring for myself, and he also done his combat estimate. We agreed that the best course of action was just to go up over the top and just work as a section in 2 teams, team of 3, which was me and my 2 guys, and him and his other guy, and we were just going to go forward and just conduct a leapfrogging method, 1 foot on the ground, and just go forward and hope for the best, really. And that's what we did. We went up, over, and just conducted this real aggressive stance across 120 metres of open ground, being fired in from our Warrior, giving us cover and fire. And it was a bit of a blur, because you're now engaging this enemy force. Some of them are starting to extract from that holding position that we were looking to take. I could see them moving, so these were human enemy, and it was like, oh bloody hell. And we just had the real upper hand, and at this point there were no casualties, and we just rolled it up. And as we were on our last bound to basically eliminate anything else that was in that position, they threw the weapons down and surrendered. And that's when we had to go from violence to then the arrest and restraint. And to do that in a split second is very difficult, but we did it. We managed. There was a lot of confusion initially. I was just solely concentrating on the threat which I had, which was someone being very verbal, throwing his hands around, and we had to make sure that we were in charge. So it was like very firm, and you had to move the weapons because all weapons were laid out on top of the positions as well. We had to move them and make sure they were clear, so there weren't going to be opportunists. And once we got settled in that position, I was like, I can't even believe what we've just done there. And I had my first sip of water, and at that point my company sergeant major joined us on the battlefield, and he come to see me and said to me, asked me if the battlefield was clear, and you see it in the film, and I said it's not clear. And he's like, okay, leave this, we're going to go and do a clearance patrol. And I was like, doesn't sound too great. I'm so lucky to be alive at this point as well. Right. And then as we moved up within 90 metres, we were in another engagement. My sergeant major was quicker, eliminated one of the militia fighters from like a metre away, and then another kind of metre and a half, there was a militia fighter coming out of an irrigation to engage me. I engaged him, and it was so close you could hear the sounds of this young fighter losing his life, which I remember like it was yesterday. And then I punched forward again. We had a conversation, me and my sergeant major, and we decided to go back to where all of the other soldiers were. We call it a reorg, to where the main reorg position was. And on the way there was a flicker out corner of my eye, and as I've looked there was two more fighters that appeared from nowhere, and they like come up, threw their weapons down, had their hands up in the air, and there was so much confusion at that point as well. It was like, what's going on? Managed to like take them as POWs. When we were in country as a regiment, we've got responsibilities to try and mentor the Iraqi National Army and the police force. And one of our responsibilities was the police force. And the guys who we were mentoring, as I got closer, I thought I recognised him, and it was one of the police that I was mentoring, who's obviously just turned against us and was a militia fighter. Wow. So you just don't know who's who. It's so frustrating. And once we got back to this reorg position on Danny Boy, we were then told that we had to collect the bodies, and that was just the worst experience I've ever had to do.
Was that an unusual request?
I think so.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the enemy should be left in situ. There was a reason for it. They believed that Bravo 1, which was the main militia leader at this point, was either killed or captured, and the only way to find out was to do the DNA testing of the POWs and the deceased. But you can only imagine what some of these fighters had been hit with. 30mm from the Raden. I mean, it was horrendous, and it only shows you snippets in the film on how it actually was. It was brutal, but it was a job that had to be done, and you
had to focus or fold in those situations.
You've got to get on with it. You have to departmentalise. It was challenging, it was testing, and it lives me today, if I'm honest. It's nothing that you can shake. It was extreme. It's extreme trauma. Yeah, taking someone's life is difficult enough. I don't care what anyone says. When it's close and personal, you feel that, and you have to live with it. Do I regret it? I don't regret it, for sure, because it was either I kill this fighter or he kills me. It was so close like that. But I'm alive, he's not anymore, and I replay that moment often. It has a lasting effect on you. And then we took the bodies back, got back to camp. The RAP, regimental aid post, was waiting for us to get there. The doctor was there, flapping around, and had all the body bags out, and then we couldn't get the back door open because the hydraulics in the back were broke, so one of the lads had to climb through the turret.
Traumatic for you and the guys who were with you.
100%.
Definitely.
When I do my talks or share stuff on, like this, it's the guys I also represent as well, because without them, I probably wouldn't even be here. So I've got so much gratitude for them. It's really important that it's about them as well, for sure. And hard yards.
Oh, well, thanks for sharing certainly that that experience that you suffered, and you've relived that many times in many things.